The impossible shot. The battlefield was chaos. Smoke and fire covered the ruins of an old human city, now turned into a war zone. Alien dropships hovered above, releasing squads of Zorgian soldiers. Tall, armored warriors with sharp, insect-like features. Their mission was simple: eliminate all human resistance. Taraka, a young but highly trained Zorgian scout, stood on a broken rooftop, scanning the battlefield with her advanced visor. She had been in many battles before, but something about this fight felt different. The humans were outnumbered, yet they were not losing. And the reason? One human sniper. She had been tracking him for the past 10 minutes, and what she saw made no sense. Every time a Zorgian soldier tried to move forward, a single gunshot echoed through the battlefield. And a body fell. There was no second shot, no hesitation. Just one bullet, one kill. Her visor zoomed in on the last victim. A Zorvian captain, wearing thick armor that could stop most human weapons, but the bullet had gone through his eye, straight into his brain. A perfect shot from at least 2 miles away. "This is impossible," Taraka whispered. She activated her battle scanner, programming it to calculate the bullet trajectory. Within seconds, the computer mapped out the shot's origin. The sniper was hiding somewhere in the ruins, high up in a damaged skyscraper. Taraka relayed the coordinates to her commander. "I have found the enemy sniper," she reported. "Should I engage?" Her commander, a massive Zorvian warrior named General Vorkal, hesitated before responding. "Are you certain?" "Yes, General," she said. "The calculations are correct." There was a pause. Then Vorkal's voice returned, filled with concern. "If that is true, then we have a problem, Taraka. No human should be able to make shots like this." Taraka's mandibles clicked together in frustration. "He is just a soldier. A human. He bleeds like the rest." Vorkal sighed. "Then go, scout, but do not underestimate him." Taraka jumped down from the rooftop and moved like a shadow, using her natural agility and speed to stay hidden. She sprinted through the destroyed streets, past burning vehicles and fallen bodies. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she controlled her breathing. This was what she was trained for: hunting enemies, eliminating threats. As she got closer to the sniper's location, she slowed down. She needed to be careful. One wrong move, and she would end up like the others. She climbed up the remains of an old human bank, using the broken walls as cover. Her visor kept scanning, looking for any sign of movement. Then she saw him, a figure, barely visible, lying flat on the edge of a ruined building. He was covered in a strange camouflage suit, blending perfectly with the debris. His rifle was long and deadly, its barrel still smoking from the last shot. Taraka's claws tightened around her weapon. "Target confirmed," she whispered. She raised her plasma rifle, lining up her shot. She would end this now. But before she could pull the trigger, bang! A bullet slammed into the wall beside her, just inches from her head. Taraka froze. She hadn't even seen him move, hadn't heard the shot until after the bullet had landed. He had fired a warning shot. He knew she was here. Her blood turned cold. How? How had he seen her? Her armor was equipped with stealth shielding. She was hidden behind cover. There was no way he could have known. Unless he had been waiting for her. A chill ran down her spine. This wasn't just a skilled soldier. This was something else. The sniper slowly turned his head toward her, as if looking directly into her soul. For the first time in her life, Taraka felt true fear. The hunt begins. Taraka crouched behind the broken remains of a steel column, her heart hammering inside her armored chest. She had made a mistake, a terrible mistake. The human sniper wasn't just good, he was inhuman. She had tracked him carefully, used every advanced Zorgian scanning tool at her disposal. And yet, before she could fire, he had fired first. Not to kill. No, that would have been too easy. He had warned her. And that was what terrified her the most. She activated her visor again, switching to thermal vision. The battlefield became a mix of glowing heat signatures, burning rubble, the lingering warmth of bodies, and scattered figures of her fellow Zorvian soldiers still engaged in combat below. But the sniper? Nothing. The spot where she had seen him just seconds ago was now empty. No heat, no movement, nothing. Taraka swallowed hard. He moved. She muttered under her breath. And not just moved, he had vanished. The shadow in the ruins. She couldn't just sit there. If she waited, she was dead. Taraka pressed a button on her wrist gauntlet, sending a silent distress signal to her squad. If she couldn't find the sniper, maybe they could. A moment later, 3 Zorvian commandos answered the call. They landed on the rooftop beside her, their heavy boots crunching against the debris. The squad leader, Sergeant Crows, crouched beside her. "What's the situation?" he asked. Taraka exhaled sharply. "Human sniper. Near impossible accuracy. He fired a shot at me from 2 miles away and moved before I could counter." Crows frowned. "You're saying he's faster than our scanners?" She nodded. "He's playing with us." Crows let out a growl. "Then we end the game. Split up. We sweep the ruins." The squad nodded and spread out, weapons ready. Taraka moved carefully, stepping over broken stone and rusted metal beams, her claws gripping her rifle tightly. Silence. The wind howled through the crumbling skyscrapers, the only sound in the dead city. Even the distant battle seemed far away now. Taraka's nerves screamed at her. Something was wrong. Then, bang. First blood. Crow's head exploded. His body collapsed instantly, his weapon clattering to the floor. One shot. One kill. Taraka spun around. "Where?" she shouted, but she saw nothing. The sniper was nowhere to be found. Her 2 remaining teammates dove for cover, pressing their backs against a shattered wall. Then, a whisper in her earpiece. A voice. Calm. Precise. Human. "You should have stayed hidden." Taraka's blood turned to ice. The voice had come from inside their own encrypted channel. How? How was he? Another shot rang out. One of her teammates let out a choking sound and collapsed, a smoking hole in his throat. Taraka gritted her teeth. This isn't a sniper. This is a ghost. The last surviving commando, Vex, snarled. "I don't care what he is. We find him and..." Bang. A hole appeared in the wall just behind Vex's head. A warning shot. The sniper had let him live. On purpose. Taraka's hands tightened into fists. This wasn't just an enemy soldier. This was a predator. A hunter. And they were his prey. Breaking the rules of war. Taraka forced herself to think. He was messing with them. But why? If he could kill them at any time, why was he playing with them first? Because he wasn't just killing soldiers. He was studying them. The sniper was testing their reactions, learning how they moved, how they thought. He was reading them like an open book. And then it clicked. The moment they tried to track him, he disappeared. The moment they stopped searching, he attacked. He was always one step ahead. She clenched her jaw. "Vex," she whispered. "We've been playing his game. Time to change the rules." Vex gave a quick nod. "What do we do?" Taraka took a deep breath. "We do the one thing he won't expect." She dropped her rifle. Vex's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" Taraka raised her hands in the air. "We surrender." Silence. Then, the wind shifted. A figure moved in the distance. For the first time, she saw him clearly. A human. Clad in a ghillie suit, his face hidden beneath a dark visor. His rifle rested against his shoulder, and his posture was relaxed. He was watching them. Studying them. He had fallen for the bait. "Got you." Taraka's eyes flashed. She moved. The hunter becomes the hunted. With a single motion, she grabbed a throwing blade from her belt and launched it with all her strength. The blade spun through the air, slicing toward the sniper's head. But he was already gone. Not dodging, not running. Gone. Taraka's stomach twisted. No, that's not possible. A voice echoed from behind her. Nice try. She turned, too late. The sniper pressed a cold metal barrel against her helmet. Her body locked up. For the first time in her life, Taraka knew what it meant to be prey. The ghost sniper. Taraka's body locked up. Her breathing slowed. The cold barrel of the sniper's rifle pressed against the side of her helmet, inches from where her skull rested inside. She had never felt this helpless before. The human had outplayed her. He had outplayed all of them. Her training screamed at her to move, attack, do something, but she knew the truth. If she twitched the wrong way, she'd be dead before she even finished the thought. The sniper's voice came through her helmet's external speakers, calm and controlled. Not bad, but not good enough. He was standing right behind her. Taraka forced herself to think. There had to be a way out. The sniper didn't kill her immediately. That meant something. He wasn't just a killer. He had a reason for this. She just had to figure out what. The escape attempt. Vex, the last remaining Zorvian commando, was still behind cover, too afraid to move. Taraka could feel his panic through her comms. She couldn't rely on him. She had to act alone. In one swift motion, she twisted her body, trying to knock the sniper's weapon aside and counterattack. But he was already gone. She spun, scanning the area. Empty. He had disappeared again. Taraka's claws tightened into fists. How? She muttered. No human should be able to move like that. She had seen elite assassins, cyber-augmented warriors, and even psionic Zorvian commanders. None of them had vanished into thin air. The sniper's voice crackled through her helmet speaker. Still too slow. Her blood ran cold. He was playing with her. The predator's patience. A single red laser dot flickered on her chest plate. Another warning. Another reminder that she was never safe. Taraka clenched her jaw. This was more than just superior skill. This was warfare beyond anything she had trained for. She had been taught to fight with brutality, strength, and superior technology. This sniper, he fought with patience, precision, control, and that made him far more dangerous than any warrior she had ever faced. The orbital scan. Taraka needed answers. She tapped a button on her gauntlet, activating a high-frequency scan from her squad's orbiting warship. A holographic overlay appeared in her visor, showing a heat map of the battlefield. She narrowed her eyes, looking for any irregular patterns. Then she saw it. In the last 5 minutes, the sniper had moved positions 5 times, across distances that should have been impossible for a human. But the scan also revealed something more terrifying. Each position was a perfect counter to her every move. Wherever she had thought of going next, he had already been there. The realization hit her like a physical blow. He wasn't just tracking her movements. He was predicting them. Taraka felt her claws shake. This wasn't just a sniper. This was a hunter who had already won the game. A desperate plan. Her only chance was to change the rules. She opened a private channel to Vex. We have one shot at this. Listen carefully. Vex, still shaking, responded. What do we do? Taraka took a deep breath. We don't run. We don't hide. We trap him. Vex hesitated. How? He sees everything before we do. Taraka's mind raced. The sniper was always ahead of them, always reacting before they could act. That meant he was working off patterns. So what if they broke the pattern? Taraka spoke quickly. We make him think we're doing one thing, then do something completely different. Vex gulped. Bait. She nodded. Vex sighed. I hate this plan already. Setting the bait. Taraka deliberately exposed herself, stepping into the open battlefield. She pretended to panic, making erratic movements, as if she had lost control. She wanted to look like an easy target, but her real goal. She was leading him to a very specific kill zone, a place where she had hidden remote plasma charges under the rubble. She just needed him to take the shot. The moment of truth. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, bang! A bullet whizzed toward her head. She dropped at the last possible second, dodging the shot by mere inches. No. She activated the explosives. A massive shockwave tore through the battlefield. Smoke and fire erupted into the sky. Taraka's heart pounded. Did it work? Did she finally catch him? She scanned the area. Nothing. No body. No sniper. Then she heard the voice. Behind her. Nice try. She turned. Too late. The sniper's rifle was already pressed against her head. Taraka felt her body freeze. He had seen the trap coming. He had let her think she was in control. And now, she was at his mercy. The first encounter. Taraka's muscles tensed. The cold barrel of the sniper's rifle pressed against the side of her helmet. The slightest movement could be her last. She had spent years fighting in the most brutal campaigns, facing enemies that would send lesser warriors running. But this was something different. This wasn't a battle. This was a hunt. And she had finally come face to face with the hunter, the voice of the Reaper. For a moment, the battlefield around them faded. The distant explosions, the dying screams of soldiers, none of it mattered. Only the silence between them remained. Then he spoke. "Tell me, what did you expect to find?" His voice was calm, even amused. Taraka clenched her teeth. She forced herself to breathe, to stay in control. "He wants a reaction. He wants to see me break." She wouldn't give him that satisfaction. Her voice came out steady. "A warrior, a soldier, not a ghost." The sniper let out a quiet chuckle. "Ghosts don't leave bodies behind." Taraka's mandibles twitched in frustration. He was toying with her. And that made her furious. The escape attempt. She had seconds to act. With a quick motion, Taraka shifted her weight, dropping her body low while swinging her leg outward in a sweeping kick. A direct hit, except her leg hit nothing. The sniper had already moved. Again. She rolled, aiming her plasma pistol as fast as she could. But a sharp pain struck her wrist. A blade. Small, precise, thrown with perfect accuracy. Her weapon clattered to the ground. The sniper stepped back into the shadows, his form blending into the ruined environment. His voice echoed from somewhere in the darkness. "Sloppy." Taraka felt rage boil in her chest. She wasn't some rookie grunt. She had trained with the best warriors of her species. She had survived battles that should have killed her. And yet, this one human had disabled her in less than 5 seconds. How? How was he this good? The Predator's lesson. "You're angry." His voice came again, from somewhere unseen. Taraka forced herself to still her breathing. Think. Adapt. Don't play his game. "Humans aren't supposed to be this skilled," she said, stalling for time. "You don't have our reflexes, our strength, our technology." A pause. Then the sniper spoke. "You rely too much on your technology. That's why you lost." Taraka narrowed her eyes. "Lost." The sniper's voice was closer now. "You still think you have a chance." A moment of clarity. Taraka clenched her fists. She refused to believe that this was over. There's always a way out. Always. She scanned her surroundings in the reflection of her visor, searching for even the smallest disturbance in the shadows. Then she saw it. A shift, a tiny movement, a fraction of a second where the air bent just slightly. He was using optical camouflage. She barely had time to react. Taraka leaped backward just as the sniper's knife slashed through the air where her throat had been. She rolled, grabbing a discarded blade from the ground. And for the first time, she went on the offensive. The fight in the ruins. The sniper didn't retreat this time. He met her head-on. Taraka struck with trained precision, her blade slicing through the air toward his ribs. But the sniper's movements were fluid, perfect. He sidestepped at the last possible moment, barely an inch between him and death. She followed up with a second strike, a feint, but he saw through it. Bam! A heavy elbow strike caught Taraka across the jaw, sending her stumbling. He's fast. Too fast. Before she could recover, the sniper grabbed her arm and twisted, forcing her face first into the dirt. Her vision blurred for a second. Pain shot through her body. Then, click. A cold barrel pressed against the back of her head. Again. Again, she had lost. The warning. She waited for the shot. But it never came. Showdown. Taraka stood frozen in place, her mind racing. A sniper was gone. No sound. No movement. Just an empty battlefield soaked in smoke and fire. She had been completely outmatched. Not just in skill, but in strategy, patience, and execution. And worst of all, he had let her live. Her pride screamed at her. Why? Why didn't he kill me? Letting her go was the ultimate insult. He saw her as no threat. But he had made a mistake. Because now she was going to find him again. And next time, she wouldn't lose. The hunter's resolve. Taraka activated her comms. This is Scout Taraka to command. I need immediate aerial support. I'm tracking an enemy sniper. Static. Then, a sharp voice answered. General Vorkal. Scout Taraka, you are ordered to regroup. The battlefield is lost. Taraka clenched her jaw. No, not yet. I can still. Do not be a fool. Vorkal's voice was sharp, edged with something unusual. Fear. This human, this sniper, has already dismantled an entire platoon. We cannot waste more warriors. Taraka narrowed her eyes. So we just let him go. Silence. Then Vorkal spoke. You already did. Taraka's claws twitched. He knew. The general already knew she had lost. Shame burned through her veins, but she shoved it down. She wasn't done yet. She took a deep breath. Give me one more chance. Vorkal sighed. What do you propose? Taraka looked up at the ruins ahead, her mind working fast. If I can't hunt him from the ground. She activated a command on her gauntlet. Then I'll make him run. The trap. Above the battlefield, a Zorvian hunter drone soared through the air. It was small, merely silent, and carried a single high-energy scanning pulse. One blast, and every life form within a 2-mile radius would be exposed. Taraka grinned. No more hiding, human. She spoke into her comms, initiating sweep in 3, 2, 1. She pressed the command. A blinding wave of energy erupted from the drone, sweeping across the battlefield like a sonar pulse. Taraka's visor flashed. Targets detected. She scanned the readings, expecting to see a red marker on her map. But instead, nothing. Her blood ran cold. No human, no sniper, no trace of him at all. Impossible. Where is he? She whispered. Then, her gut twisted. The realization hit her too late. She had been so focused on flushing him out, she hadn't considered he might already be moving toward her. The counterattack. A noise behind her. Too close. Taraka spun, but bang! Her rifle exploded out of her hands, a bullet shattering the plasma casing. She barely had time to react before. Crack! A powerful force slammed into her chest, knocking her flat onto the rubble. She gasped, vision blurring. Sniper round. Blunt force impact. Non-lethal. A warning shot. Another one. Another reminder. Taraka growled, pushing herself up. Not this time. Her instincts kicked in. She grabbed a shard of metal from the ground and hurled it toward the shadow moving behind the ruins. It clanged against stone. A decoy. And then, a whisper. Right next to her ear. Better. Taraka barely had time to process what was happening before a strong arm wrapped around her throat from behind. In a single motion, she was yanked off her feet, slammed into the ground, and pinned. One knee pressed into her back. The sniper had her again. Taraka's breathing was ragged. He had closed the distance so fast. How? How does he move like this? The barrel of a pistol rested against her temple. She was at his mercy. Again. The lesson. Silence. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, the sniper sighed. I thought you'd leave after the first lesson. Taraka growled. I gon' quit. The sniper was quiet for a moment. Then, he chuckled. Yeah, I figured that much. She gritted her teeth. Go on then. Kill me. The sniper didn't answer right away. Then, he lifted the pistol. Taraka's eyes widened. He was letting her go. Again. She forced herself onto her knees, staring at him. Why? Her voice came out rough. You're playing with me. The sniper tilted his head slightly. No. He looked toward the horizon, where human dropships were beginning to land. Reinforcements. He turned back to her. You lost. Again. But this time, you learned. Taraka's claws curled into fists. It was true. She had improved. She had forced him into closer combat. She had lasted longer. But in the end, he still won. He holstered his weapon. You can either keep chasing me and keep losing. Then he looked at her with something she didn't expect. Respect. Or you can start asking the right questions. Taraka frowned. What questions? The sniper smirked. Why do you think I let you live? Her breath hitched. Before she could respond, he took a step back. Then another. She moved to stop him. But he was already fading into the ruins. Taraka stared, unable to move. She had never met a human like this before, and she had a sinking feeling. This wouldn't be the last time. The sniper's lesson. Taraka sat in the dimly lit barracks of the Zorvian command center, staring at the holographic display before her. Surveillance footage. Grainy, distorted, but enough to show the battlefield events from multiple angles. And there, among the burning ruins and broken soldiers, was him. The ghost sniper. The human who had humiliated her, who had let her live. Twice. Taraka clenched her claws. She needed answers. And this time, she wouldn't stop until she had them. The council's verdict. She turned as the doors behind her hissed open. General Vorkal entered, his expression unreadable. Taraka immediately stood at attention. Taraka, Vorkal began, pacing slowly. Do you know how many warriors we lost to this? One human. She swallowed hard. Too many. The general's mandibles clicked in frustration. More than too many. He gestured toward the hologram of the sniper, pausing on an image of his shadowed figure disappearing into the ruins. One soldier. No backup. No armor enhancements. And yet, he turned an entire battle in humanity's favor. Taraka kept her face neutral, but inside she burned. He let me live, she said carefully. Twice. Vorkal's piercing gaze locked onto her. And why do you think that is? Taraka exhaled. I don't know. She hated admitting that. Vorkal let the silence hang before speaking. The High Council believes this sniper was a test. Taraka blinked. A test. The general nodded. A warning. The humans know we are stronger, more advanced. But this one sniper, he was sent to prove something. She tilted her head. What? Vorkal's next words made her blood run cold. That humans are the true predators in this war. The sniper's code. Taraka couldn't sleep that night. She kept replaying their fight, his movements, the way he always seemed a step ahead. And then there was the message he left in her visor. You're not ready yet, but soon you will be. What did that mean? She had fought countless enemies. She was an elite Zorvian scout, trained in war. Yet for the first time in her life, she questioned whether that training had ever truly mattered. She needed to understand his way of thinking. And there was only one way to do that. Tracking the ghost. Against orders, Taraka accessed classified intelligence reports on human snipers. The database contained hundreds of files, but one section caught her eye. Terran Special Operations, the Ghosts of War. She tapped the file, her visor scanning the information. Terran snipers do not fight like soldiers. They fight like hunters. They do not attack head-on. They do not seek glory. They seek the kill. One sniper can dismantle an entire battalion, not through firepower, but through fear. The greatest ones are never seen, never heard. And if they let you live, it is because you are already dead. You just don't know it yet. Taraka shivered. This wasn't just a warrior's discipline. This was something far more primal. She had spent her life believing in Zorgian superiority, believing that their technology, strength, and numbers made them the dominant force in the galaxy. But humans, they weren't trying to be the strongest. They were trying to be the smartest, and that made them far more dangerous. The unexpected invitation. Days later, Taraka received an anonymous transmission. Encrypted, high-level security, not Zordian. She hesitated before opening it. The moment she did, her screen flickered before showing a single image, coordinates, and a message. If you want the truth, come alone. No name, no signature. But she didn't need one. She knew who it was. The sniper. Her breath caught. He was inviting her. But why? What game was he playing now? The meeting. Against all logic, against all warnings, Taraka followed the coordinates. A desolate planet. No battle, no armies, just endless dust and ruins. She moved carefully, scanning for traps, ambushes, anything. But there was nothing. Then she saw him, sitting atop a rusted human dropship, legs dangling over the edge. His sniper rifle rested beside him, but he made no move to pick it up. Taraka approached slowly. She didn't know what to expect. A fight, a lesson, a trap. Instead, the sniper just said, "Took you long enough." She stopped a few feet away. "You knew I'd come." The sniper smirked. "Of course." Taraka crossed her arms. "What is this? Some kind of trick?" The sniper shook his head. "No tricks. You want answers." She tensed. "And you're just going to give them to me?" He tilted his head. "Depends." She narrowed her eyes. "On what?" The sniper leaned forward slightly. "On whether you're ready to hear them." Taraka felt her claws tighten. Enough of the games. "Tell me, human," she said, stepping closer. "What is your purpose in this war?" The sniper held her gaze, his voice calm. "To remind you that you're not as strong as you think you are." The final lesson. Taraka felt something deep inside her shift. For the first time, she understood. This war wasn't about conquering territory. It wasn't about who had the biggest ships, the strongest warriors, or the most advanced weapons. It was about who could outthink, outblast, and outmaneuver the other. And in that game, humans had already won. The sniper stood, grabbing his rifle. "You have a choice, Taraka." She exhaled. "What choice?" He stared at her. "Keep fighting, and keep losing." Then he turned, walking away. Or at least, that's what she thought. Because the moment she blinked, he was gone. Again. Speechless and changed forever. Taraka stood motionless, staring at the empty space where the sniper had just been. Gone. Again. He moved like a phantom, like he was part of the battlefield itself. No sound. No trace. She clenched her claws, frustration burning through her veins. This wasn't over. Not for her. But something was different this time. It wasn't just about beating him anymore. It was about understanding him. Because deep down, in the pit of her gut, she knew. If humans had more warriors like him, then the Zorvian Empire was already doomed. The report. The moment Taraka stepped onto the Zorvian flagship, she felt the weight of every eye on her. She had been gone for days. without permission, without orders. General Vorkel stood waiting for her, his heavy, battle-scarred frame towering over her as she stepped into the war room. The other commanders were there too, watching, waiting. Vorkel's mandibles twitched. You disobeyed direct orders. Taraka nodded. Yes. Silence. Then Vorkel folded his arms. And, what did you learn? Taraka exhaled, setting her helmet on the table in front of them. The holographic display flickered to life, showing her recorded data from the encounter. She looked around at the gathered Zorvian officers, the strongest, most elite warriors of her species. And then she spoke the words that would change everything. We are fighting this war the wrong way. The room tensed. Vorkel's expression darkened. Explain. Taraka inhaled sharply. We have always believed strength, numbers, and technology win wars. That is what the Empire has taught us. She looked directly at the general. But what if we're wrong? Murmurs rippled through the officers. Vorkel remained silent. Taraka continued. I faced a single human. No armor enhancements. No superior weapons. Just a rifle, patience, and skill. She tapped a command, replaying footage from her helmet's thermal scanner, showing the sniper moving like a ghost through the battlefield. Always ahead of them, always out of reach. Technology didn't help me. Strength didn't help me. Taraka's voice hardened. Nothing did, because this wasn't a warrior in a battle. She turned, meeting the eyes of every officer in the room. This was a predator hunting its prey. The High Council's warning. Hours later, Taraka was summoned to the Zorvian High Command. This wasn't just a meeting. This was a trial. She stood before the holographic projections of the High Council, the ruling class of the Empire. Their glowing yellow eyes stared down at her from the shadows. One of them spoke. Scout Taraka, your report contradicts everything we know about human warfare. You suggest they are more dangerous than we believed. That they are a threat. Taraka kept her voice even. They already are. Another counselor leaned forward. And what do you propose? That we fear them. That we kneel before them. Taraka clenched her fists. No. She took a step forward. I propose that we start treating them as what they truly are, a species bred for survival. Murmurs spread through the chamber. One of the counselors scoffed. You let a single human fill your mind with fear. Taraka's mandibles clicked in frustration. Not fear. Respect. The council chamber fell silent. Then, another voice spoke, not from the council, but from behind her. General Vorkel. I have read her report. His deep, growling voice cut through the tension. And I agree. The council turned toward him. Vorkel stepped forward, looking at Taraka. She isn't wrong, he said. The human did not kill her, did not kill many of our warriors. That means something. The lead counselor narrowed their glowing eyes. And what do you believe it means? Vorkel exhaled. It means they don't need to defeat us on the battlefield. He turned to the council. They only need to show us that we are already lost. Silence. The council remained still. Then, the lead figure finally spoke. This matter is not to be discussed further. Taraka stiffened. You're ignoring this. The counselor's voice turned sharp. No, we are containing it. Her stomach twisted. The Zorvian High Council was afraid. And instead of learning from this, they were going to bury the truth. The final message. Taraka returned to her quarters, frustration boiling beneath her skin. She had seen the truth with her own eyes. And the Empire had chosen to ignore it. Her visor flickered. An incoming transmission. She frowned. No identification. Taraka hesitated before opening the message. A familiar voice spoke. You have a choice now. Her breath caught. It was him. The sniper. His voice was calm. But there was something behind it. Something calculated. Follow orders. Pretend this never happened. Or a pause. Then his final words sent a shiver down her spine. Start thinking for yourself. The transmission ended. Taraka stared at the screen, her claws trembling. She had a choice: stay loyal to the Empire, or follow the truth. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't sure which path to take.